Welcome back, barbecue fans. Vin Picaro from Wise Guys Barbecue, and I am joined this week with Tommy the Butcher, our wonderful chef and master smoker. I'm not going to say pit master because you haven't gotten to a competition yet.
No.
But
I don't know if I ever will, but...
I will give you the honors of master smoker for Wise Guys Barbecue.
Oh, glad to be honored. I am honored. And I'm sitting in the big guy's chair today, so yes. I hope I serve him well.
And the big guy is, he's having a great time. He's at Myrtle Beach. You know, how does he rank? Another guy, between Fredo and Chet, everybody gets time off. And not me and you.
No, I haven't had time off. I will. After next week, I'll have the rest of my life off. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, you're gonna give up your day gig.
Yeah.
Don't give up your day job, but I guess you're gonna.
Yeah, after 49, close to 50 years.
That's awesome.
Enough is enough.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No, you deserve it. And I think the next episode of what you're going to do is you're going to get really exciting too. At least I hope that for you, anyways. But we got a really good show today for you guys. And I want to thank everybody, the listeners, the last couple of weeks. You've really been pouring out some love and giving us some good feedback on what you'd like to see down here at Wise Guys and what we need to do more of. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that you've been subscribing, hitting that like button. Yeah, please do that. We got a lot going on. We got our masterclass competition series. Bob Bowman is heading it out with his competition chicken. That's going to be, I think, finishing up next week.
Yeah, looking forward to that one.
Yeah, he's been killing it. He's been doing great on the reviews. He's been very, very knowledgeable. Getting a lot of comments from that. And then right after, we're going to have Rico from Q Shanty Smoking Team, who's going to be doing competition ribs, which was a lot of fun. That was a good Sunday. So hopefully those things are helping, and you guys are liking it. And more importantly, we're getting a lot of look-ats and a lot of rings on the subscription. I think we need like 38 more to hit our first thread.
Yeah, we're close to that 500 mark.
Yeah,
I've been watching that.
Yeah,
like to see it jump a little more quickly than it has been. But
yeah, so get out there, hit the button, smash the button. But we got some good things going on today. We're going to talk about the campground barbecue, Southern New England barbecue throwdown that occurred in Bristol, Connecticut this past weekend in the snow, Tommy. Yeah. You know, that's,
good for those guys. If it wasn't for their fires, it would probably have been a freeze out down there because, winter's tight conditions, snow, temperatures in the 30s.
Yeah, screw with the cook, right?
But they persevered, they powered through, and there's some interesting results from that. And it's the first major cook here in New England, and with more to come. And we had quite a few of our competitors who are within the Wise Guys Barbecue family. They all went down. They some had some success, some not so much success, but it was a great weekend, and we're looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it literally snowed on those folks, and I would wake up. I didn't even look out my window before I went to Facebook, and I would see films put up by competitors at like 3 a.m. with snow on their smokers, and it'll screw with your cook for sure. But I'm glad those guys stuck it out. And Bob says it's the best, right? Because you get these guys, and their programs are so tight, they're so dead on in their culinary expertise that. It's just amazing. But then you got to compare that with the campground, right? It literally is on the dirt under a tent in a tailgate kind of format, and you got to get it done. And these guys kill it. So God bless them, and good job sticking it out. And I guess they had some fun. Day one Saturday was a double, so there was a Saturday and a Sunday competition, and getting basted. Was the GC on Saturday coming in with a top score of 700 in all events to take the grand champion call for that, followed right behind by Boggs Hog Barbecue, who was the reserve grand champion. And what was amazing there was chicken. He got a perfect score of 180 on chicken, which is great because chicken is difficult enough. Right, it's difficult enough. Then you get the conditions, and this guy's pulling out a 180. So great job. And then on day 2, you had Uncle Pig's Barbecue Pit took the grand championship with a 709 score, with getting basted close behind to take the reserve grand championship with a 707 score. So that was a nice first competition. I'm sure everybody had a great time, and there were some videos I saw on Facebook with live videos of the call. So that was cool. I'm glad they got that done. I don't know. Would you?
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the weather they had to experience and endure, and some of the other conditions around them. But let me tell you, these guys, these competitive pit masters, when they're so focused, when they get in their zone, that's exactly where they are. Anything that's going on around them, I really don't think they're too concerned about. It's just executing their plan, developing their flavors, and they're just focused and totally in their zone. So I'm sure the weather did have an effect, but nothing that was going to take them off their game by any means.
Exactly. So congratulations to those winners, and congratulations to everybody who had to endure that climate there. And I'm sure the better weather is on its way. But better weather. This week we're getting a little bit spoiled over last week. The week before Palm Sunday was freezing. It was back in the 40s, and now this Easter week is warming up quite a bit already. Yesterday, I think we were like 68.
Yeah. Yesterday was
nice day.
Sitting outside in the sun late in the day, and now today you're all shivering, sitting inside with. It's just a cold, raw day, and that's typical April weather here in New England.
Yep,
like a roller coaster.
April showers bring those May flowers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what May flowers bring? Pilgrims. Anyways,
all right.
Leave it alone. That's back for that's for our kids' queue in a couple more weeks. And but we do want to highlight today for Easter. We have a lamb shank video coming out this week that you expertly produced. And I want you to tell our audience a little bit about what you did there, because you did some really cool stuff. And then I know we have some information on the lamb, but tell them how you did that cook, Tommy, because that was extraordinary.
Yeah. So of all the major holidays, Easter is the only one where focus gets put on lamb. It might not be the most popular dinner item, menu item, and the reason for that is there's so much division on lamb. And over the years, in my experience, you either have those who absolutely love it and those who absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
And there's very little middle room on that. So a couple of the recipes that we did do was trying to create a middle ground, because there are ways in preparing it and cooking it and what to look for, what not to look for, that you can overcome that gaminess that lamb has that most people are turned off by. So what we did for our Easter cook, and that'll be coming up the end of this week. Hopefully, I believe that'll get posted by Friday.
The same day.
Just in time for Easter, so you might want to entertain looking at these recipes. We did an oven roasted leg of lamb, and that particular leg of lamb was a domestic. Now that's a whole other story. Now I'll get into that in a minute. But we did a whole oven roasted leg of lamb, and the particular lamb that we did was a whole bone-in leg of lamb, and something that I don't see that often in the meat business now. Most of the legs that we get are what's called semi-boneless, and you have that bone removed. We call it the H-bone or the hip bone. It's on the sirloin end of the lamb leg, where they'll remove that, because all that does is just cause a headache for the consumer. It's just a lot of bulk. It makes carving very difficult because the bone structure is a little bit more complicated. When you get into the shank half leg of lamb, which is lower on the leg, it's pretty much just a straight single shank bone going all the way through. So yeah, so what we did, we did a recipe where we gathered some of the most common ingredients with lamb. That's rosemary, garlic, We made some little incisions, and we took little pieces of the sliced garlic and the rosemary, and we stuffed it in those little incisions. But one of the secret ingredients we used was a little, like a half of an anchovy fillet, which actually adds great flavor. It adds another dimension, but you're not really gonna notice that. It's as if you're using anchovies for a pasta dish when you're developing a sauce, and you put that anchovy fillet in the pan itself with the oil. That just basically disintegrates, and you're really not going to have the presence of anchovy, but it'll give you that little brininess, saltiness flavor in the background.
Yeah, no, it was amazing because, like you said, you say the word anchovies, people cringe, right?
Lamb and anchovies. Right. I can only hear people just tuning off right now because, they're like, "What? Who the hell's going to eat lamb and anchovies?"
And I think people resemble anchovies because of what they have on pizza, right?
Yeah. Oh,
which are the nasty kind of
and it's that
fishy,
that big fillet staring you in the face. Who's going to like?
No, that wasn't this at all.
That?
Actually, I think what you did was you sliced them down very thin, and like you said, when you roll it with the garlic and the rosemary, and you tuck it in that little pocket, I mean, its whole essence and being in there is it just melts away, and it melts away into the meat under the skin, which just kind of mellows out that gamey. And I don't even know why people think lamb is so gamey, because it does have I call it like an aftertaste. Like if you drink a Diet Coke compared to a Coke, you have a different flavor in your mouth at the end. But but it's not gamey. It's just present. It's not steak, right?
Yeah,
it's different. In that you're eating a different protein, and it's awesome.
Right, and there are certain cuts of lamb that will give you that. We'll call it gamey from here on out. Yep. We'll give you a more of a gamey flavor profile back in the background, and those are the cuts of meat that get more exercise, like the legs, the chuck, the shoulder of the animal, of the lamb. But there are certain cuts, if it's from the loin, very lean. Now those aren't getting a lot of exercise, so they're not developing connective tissue. They're not developing collagen. There's less fat. Most of that gaminess is in connective tissue. It's present in fat. But rack of lamb, the other item we did in our cook was a rack of lamb. And if you have, if you're shy about lamb, you definitely have to try it from the rack. There are many cooking techniques that can, render that virtually non-gamey. And the rack is so tender, and there's no fat present. And we did what is called a persillade, rack of lamb persillade. And what a persillade is basically breadcrumb, fresh parsley, garlic, lemon zest. So you got a lot of flavor packed into that little breading. We'll call it a breading. We breaded the rack of lamb with it. Mm-hmm. There's so much flavor, and it kind of neutralizes that gaminess.
Right.
And I'm telling you, I mean, if you're a naysayer about lamb and you try this recipe, I really want you to try this out. I really think you're going to be surprised, and you're really going to enjoy it.
Well, those lamb chops, those lollipop lamb chops are just they're addicting.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're at a cocktail party and those things are going around.
Yep.
I'm stopping that person every time.
You don't need a knife.
Nope.
You don't want a fork. You just pick that up by the little bone and have at it. I've seen them served as appetizers and many functions, that type of thing. It's very simple, very easy.
Right.
And it's going to make that person who shying away from lamb, it might get them interested.
So we picked up our leg of lamb from the meat bar marketplace. Neilio Vaz treated us to that. And that was awesome because we actually waited out his delivery. So we went up there the Thursday before, Tuesday before Palm Sunday, and we picked that leg up. So it was never frozen. It was fresh from his package department. And you butchered out the H-bone and there you go. And it was just fantastic. It was a great cook. And I even spoiled my family because after Tommy cooked one on the show Wednesday, I cooked another one on Sunday, Palm Sunday, for my family, and it was delicious. It was great, and it's kind of interesting because you were sharing some information about where actually the lamb comes from and how odd that is in comparison to other meats. Good.
Yeah, so I had to do a little research, and I already knew this fact, but I was surprised how extreme it was. Now, one of the biggest debates, this is similar to, ribs. Do you take the membrane off? Do you leave it on? But one of the biggest debates I've always encountered in the business is what's better, domestic lamb or imported? And, most of the people, you're going to like what you're going to like. It's a matter of opinion, and that's all it is. So I'm going to throw some facts at you, and you can base your opinions based on fact. So, half the people that I've always worked with will say, oh, no, domestic lamb is better, and the rest will say the opposite, Australian or New Zealand. And, there's nobody on the planet, if they are in a blind taste test given 5 samples of lamb and not knowing if they're domestic or if they're imported, nobody's ever going to single out which one's which on a consistent basis. So with that said, let me give you some facts. First of all, it's very interesting to note that of all the countries on the planet, the United States is 30th in lamb production. So that's why you're not going to see much domestic lamb on the market anymore. We're just not good producers of lamb. And so it's just that basic fundamental of supply and demand. The cost will be greater on a domestic product because of the limited supply. Now, of all the countries,
but could we be better? I mean, if we wanted to, I mean, let's say there was a tariff on imported lamb.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's a good question, because there's a reason why we're not aggressive in producing lamb.
Why?
Because there's such a divide on lamb in the country. They're not going to be producing 10 times more than what the demand is.
Okay. So
now in these other countries, there's a greater demand. It's more prevalent in their diets. And I'm going to give you some information. Like I said, we're 30th, all right? And there's some countries that could be viewed as third world countries who are actually producing more lamb than we are. China is number one, far and away number one. I've got some information that dates back to 1961. From 1961 through 2019. Now, the cutoff point on this particular piece of information was 2019, so I don't have any updated records since then. But you're looking at China produced over 2 million tons of lamb during that point.
Jesus.
We're never going to see lamb. You're never going to see a food product here in the United States from China. Everything else is made in China, but we're not going to have Chinese.
So I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Because I wasn't fully listening. Is that produced or exported?
That is produced, not exported.
Okay.
This is the actual production in these companies. And number 2 and 3, respectively, are Australia and New Zealand. And that's primarily what you'll see available in the U.S. market today is Australian and New Zealand lamb. They do a tremendous job. A lot of their products are grass-fed. The conditions in those countries create a much better product. It's clean. You'll see a smaller, leaner product than here in some of the domestic. Some of the domestic lamb products are very big, very fatty, almost reaching the stage of what's called mutton. And it can be a little strong.
I love a good mutton.
Let's get some mutton. But yeah, those are some of the issues with lamb, why we see such an influx of New Zealand and Australian in the market.
Yeah, so basically we're not looking to overproduce those in our country because the demand is not there. So better off to go to an import that the cost will be more in line with what you expect to pay. And I don't think the price we paid was extraordinary. I think Neelio gave us a really fair price on. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was, but it was well worth it, and it was a great cook, and it was a great. People just loved it. I mean, and you'll see on the video, Tommy's video, he did it a little bit differently. He actually put the lamb directly on the oven rack and let the drippings drip down into a roasting pan full of root vegetables. That was just phenomenal. So, highly recommend following that recipe that's up on that video when you see it, because it was delicious. I did, and it came out delicious. So
the other thing we made, and of course, a classic accompaniment or condiment to serve with lamb is mint jelly.
Yeah,
Frankly, that is so outdated. I really don't think anybody's doing that nowadays.
Right.
But there are flavors you can get from that, which definitely matches well with lamb. So what we did in this recipe, we created a fresh mint salsa verde. And that was basically a fresh mint with parsley, garlic, a little bit of lemon juice, I believe, and olive oil, salt, and pepper. And it's just a great finishing sauce as you're carving your lamb and you're serving it at the table. It's a great thing to pass around the table and just spoon on. It's such fresh, vibrant flavors. And then again, that will have a tendency to mitigate, to neutralize the gaminess in the lamb. It's just a great accompaniment, and it complements it very well.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I followed your recipe too on my Sunday cook, and it was interesting because I talked to my sisters who were a little bit older than me, and no one was looking for the mint jelly. Right?
Yeah,
nobody was looking for it, calling for it. But it's fun because I had the bowl out of the mint salsa verde, and they're like, "Oh, what's that?" And I explained it to them, and they're like, Oh, that's mint. That's a good idea because like mint jelly. I'm like, yeah, but do you want mint jelly? No, we don't want mint. So I said, well, try this because this is different. It's like basically a mint pesto, and
exactly.
And it was really, really, but it's so fresh because I put I was going to put a little bit of pine nuts in there too, but I wasn't sure. I followed your recipe directly, and it was great. It was awesome because it's an oil based with some garlic. So how can you go wrong already? And that was a great accompaniment with that meat for sure. Yeah, I should make another one for Easter, even though I'll be the only one home. But make one for myself.
Sure, why not?
Neelio, save me one more, man. I'm coming up.
Hook us up with some more lamb.
So that was awesome. So check that video out, folks. You're gonna love it. Just in time for Easter, and give it a cook. It's not too intimidating. I'm sure if you ever sat there and said, I never did lamb before, because I never did, and neither did my wife. And for you to pull lamb off of your family, you think it's like, what am I doing? But if it's definitely the way to go. And of course, if there is a craft butcher in your area that you can call up and talk to, they'll definitely get it all ready, set for you, kitchen ready, lamb ready to go. So you don't have to do the butchering that's required on maybe a Packard brand of lamb leg. But regardless, if not, you can do it with your regular butcher at any market.
Yep.
Just tell them what you need and what you're doing with it, and they'll take care of you on it for sure. And it's a great cook, and it's a fun protein. It's good to have
boneless
something different.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Boneless lamb legs are available as well. If you don't want to deal with bone and carving, it's just a more convenient way of presenting and dealing with a leg of lamb without that bone present.
Sure, absolutely. So we had something else on slate for today because it basically coincides with Easter, doesn't it?
As far as I'm concerned, it is absolutely synonymous with Easter, and this is probably one of the biggest. Easter has been my number one holiday every year by far.
Yeah, but that's because you're a little prejudiced with your work schedule
and
the other major ones.
Going back when we were growing up as children, as kids, it was all about our grandparents. They're the ones. They were the drivers. They took care of all the holidays. And of course, when that generation begins to age and they no longer have the energy to do that, it goes on to the parents. I'm talking about my parents, and then they carried that tradition for a while, and they reached that point in life. So it now becomes the next generation, which happens to be us. So we all, one holiday, I think it was right after Thanksgiving. I come from a big family. I have 4 brothers, 2 sisters. We all talked this over, and I said, hey, let's all pick a holiday. That'll be our holiday. And we're just going to handle all our holidays from here on out. So before anybody opened their mouth, boom, I had Easter. I said, I got Easter. Nobody's taking it. And the reason for that is being, in the meat business, Christmas and Thanksgiving were always way too stressful. The last thing you want to do is, at the end of the work week is to come home and have to prepare dinner for 25 people.
Cook meat.
So I grabbed Easter. It was one of the easier holidays for me to do. And ever since then, it's always been my favorite. The only thing that broke that up was the year we had COVID. And that kind of broke that up. And we've been shying away from that. Our families have been growing. There's a lot more nieces and nephews. So the dynamics change. But the other thing that I love about Easter, it's that time of the year. One of the major events coincides, and that's the Masters Golf Tournament.
Yes, it is. Did you watch it this year?
Oh, I was glued. In fact, my entire family from 2:00 when the final pairing of Rory McIlroy and Bryson DeChambeau.
Yep.
They were on the first tee. We did not leave the TV until he was presented. Till Rory McIlroy was presented with his green jacket, and there's something about the Masters final round on a Sunday. It's probably watching that is probably one of the most relaxing moments. And not only that, here in New England, we can have some lousy weather this time of year. We got some great weather, but for some reason, that final round at Augusta National Golf Course, it's absolutely beautiful. You're sitting there, it's raining outside, it's 30 degrees, but you're watching TV, and all you see is sunlight.
Yep.
Everybody, you hear the little birds chirping in the background.
Yep.
The course is pristine, not a blemish on the course, and there's something very relaxing about it.
Yeah, it's like there's certain sports that you can do that. Like I can't. So first of all, with the golf, I was like you this year. I really look forward to it. I started watching it Thursday. I was following one golfer through the cuts on Friday and to see if unfortunately they didn't make it into Saturday. But I watched a little bit on Saturday. I was a little busy on Saturday, but Sunday I was surprised because I figured my sisters being here, they're going to want to hear their nice Italian mob hits movie songs. I have it on in the background. But my nephew, who's not too much younger than me, he was like, "Hey, you know what? Can we put it on?" Because his boy, so he's 45, and he's got a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, and he's like, "Hey, can we put the Masters on?" I'm like, "Sure, of course we can, but do you want it with sound, without?" And he felt a little nervous, so he's like, "No, put it without sound, but because you can literally, it's like baseball, right? You can put it on in the background. It's a slow pace kind of a thing. You don't have to be there watching every snap of the ball or something, and you just let the day go by, and it's so pleasant.
It's pleasant.
But then it heated up at the end, right?
Yeah, it heated up. There was a lot of ups and downs.
What is wrong with that guy? If you
play golf,
what is wrong with that guy?
All of us that play golf, you know how you're watching it. It's very relaxing. It just looks peaceful. But let me tell you, it is. It's a very frustrating game. You could just be like on the top of your game 1 minute and ready to break every club in your bag the next.
Well, that's what McIlroy did. He had his Thursday and Friday rounds were okay.
Yep.
But I think it was a Saturday round. He just picked up like 6 strokes on his game and catapulted him by 4. I think it was he was minus 14 starting the day, and next guy was minus 10. I think.
Yeah, on his third round Saturday, he actually set a Masters record.
Right,
and he actually scored all threes. I believe it was on the first 4 or 5 opening holes.
Yeah, and by the way,
he was on fire.
And the third hole's at 5, so he eagled the third. I think he birdie, eagle, birdie on the first 4 holes. It was just amazing. So he was on fire. And how do you do that on Saturday? And now you're 4 up. And I'm watching, like, I actually was trying to, get to the coffee part of my Palm Sunday. Yeah. And I'm looking, and there's him at minus 13 because he fell back a stroke.
Right.
And the next guy was minus 11. And I'm like, and he's on the 17th, and I'm like, there's no way this is not going to. He'd literally have to drop 1 or 2, and the other guy would have to pick up 1 or 2 in these next couple of holes. And sure enough, that's what happened and forced a sudden death, right? Which was short lived. I saw some playoff rounds that just go into the dark part of the night.
You see the stars and you hear the crickets chirping.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple of interesting things with this particular Masters. And of course, Rory was the 6th player ever to achieve what's called the Grand Slam of golf. And that's going out and winning all 4 majors. I believe it's the U.S. Open, the Masters, the British Open, and the Players Championship. So kudos to him. He was the 6th player ever to achieve that. I believe the other 5, you could name them. Tiger Woods, of course, Jack Nicklaus, of course. I think Gene Sarazen, and there was one other notable golfer, but that's quite an achievement. And, kudos to him. And then there's, the Masters is very rich in tradition. There's a lot of traditional things that surround the green jacket, just how they set up the course.
And wasn't he one of the younger guys to win? I mean, to get, I'm sorry. So this is the first time he won it, but he was like invited to go there, like when he was real young. Yeah. He's been to 10. That's his thing. This is the one that has eluded him all the years. And that's funny because, if you're a fan, if you're a fanatic, you either love somebody or hate them. And that my room was divided. Even my nephew's family, my nephew does not like him, did not want to see him win, but his 2 boys did. So it was kind of cool. They were going back and forth. But go ahead, go back to the traditions because you found a doozy.
So there were a lot of traditions. You got the green jacket, and there's a format that they follow every year. Tuesday is, first of all, if you're a winner, if you've won the Masters, you have a lifelong invitation. Yes. That's why you see such a wide variety of aged players. You'll see some Freddie Couples, for example. He's been playing. He played this year, and I think Bernard Langer. They're all former Masters champions, so they get automatically an invite. And of course, you've got the whole thing with the green jackets. The weekly schedule is they do their Tuesday is the practice round, Wednesday is a par 3, and then they go on to the first round Thursday. But one of the most interesting traditions of the Masters is that each year the winner gets to pick the menu for the champions dinner the following year. Now they do the champions dinner on a Tuesday night after the first practice round, and the only people who are invited to that are past winners and the I believe it's the chairman of the board of Augusta National Golf Course. So it's very, very exclusive. You're only talking the past winners. So everybody's sitting in a room with green jackets. Not much diversity as far as that's concerned. But yeah, the interesting thing is the winner. So we'll give you an example. Rory McIlroy is the champion this year. He hasn't, I've looked it up, he hasn't picked it yet, but the champion, whoever wins the Masters, gets to pick the menu for the following year. And one other thing, he gets to pick the menu for the following year in that winner. So when they do the presentation of the green jacket right out in the cabin right after the tournament's over, you have the current champion will present the green jacket to the new champion. So that champion will then pick the menu for the next year's dinner, and that outgoing champion gets to pay for it.
Yeah. So Scotty Scheffler won.
Scotty Scheffler,
for
exactly.
2024.
Yep.
So he got to pick the menu for
this year.
For this year.
Exactly.
And he got to pay for that dinner as well.
No, it was a previous year's winner.
So 2023 pays for it?
2024's winner paid for this year's dinner, and this year's winner. Did I say that right?
No, yeah. So this year's no, you're right. So 2025 is the dinner, and Scotty was the 2024 champion. Right. So he gets to pick the menu for this year's.
Exactly.
And does he get to pay for it too, or does
it's the previous winner who gets to pay for it.
Well, he was the previous winner, or is it the year before the
year before?
So 2023 pays for it. 2024 picks it.
Exactly.
And everybody who's in the 2025 who has a green jacket, or is a chairman, get to participate.
Right. So this year's dinner, which was Scotty Scheffler, was the 24 champion last year. Yep. So the 25 dinner, which was this year, this was his pick. I'll just read quickly off the menu. This is some of the items he picked: cheeseburger sliders, firecracker shrimp, and ravioli appetizers, Texas-style chili, wood-fired cowboy ribeye, or blackened redfish main course, warm chocolate chip skillet cookie.
That's pretty.
That's that's pretty elaborate.
It sounds like that sounds like an Applebee's. I don't want to be rude, but it's not like major, and I mean, you got international chefs, I'm sure, that's there that wants to cook this stuff. Why are you
Yeah.
picking so many, like,
And
you know?
I don't think these players, I don't think he's come up with a menu like that on his own. It's quite obvious that they're collaborating with the chefs, the executive chefs from Augusta National Country
Right,
Club.
right.
And by the way, that's one of the most prestigious courses in the country. I think it's only open 3 months out of the year, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
And forget about getting in there. You're never going to get in there.
No.
But yeah, some of these menus are rather elaborate, and we've got some information here that actually goes back to 1986 of what these actual dinners were.
So the reason why you were curious, because you wanted to see if anything resonated with the barbecue.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So what'd you find? What'd you find?
Yeah, I wanted to look for some of the barbecue items, and we found several of them. And one of them goes back to the year Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth was the champion, and he actually had a barbecue-inspired menu. Texas barbecue of beef brisket, smoked half chicken, pork ribs, barbecue baked beans, bacon and chive potato salad, sauteed greens, grilled zucchini, roasted yellow squash, chocolate chip cookies. So that sounded great. There's definitely a lot of barbecue theme in that.
What year is that?
That was in 2016.
Okay, yep.
So, and then another year, we're moving down. In 2007, Phil Mickelson, he was a champion. He picked barbecue ribs, chicken. Now, as you go earlier in this list, once you get back to like the earlier times, it's obvious that some of the menu items are much more simple. So, Phil Mickelson, barbecue ribs, chicken. And I think we need to go back to 1996 when Ben Crenshaw was the champion, and the only thing listed here is Texas barbecue. They didn't go into the details. So those were since 1986, those were the barbecue-inspired meals. However, there was one that just stood out, and I was very interested in this, and it is barbecue-inspired, and it dates back to 2010 when Angel Cabrera was the champion, and he is an Argentinian. And what I was mostly impressed with was his menu for that particular dinner. It was Argentine asado, barbecue of chorizo, blood sausage, short ribs, and beef fillets, and mochejas. Mochejas are sweetbreads.
Yeah.
So all these
this guy knew what he was doing.
Oh, he knew what he's doing, and I mean If you don't know anything about asado type barbecue, Argentinian asado type barbecue, it is absolutely fascinating. These cookers designed specifically for that type of cook, and what it does, it gives you it's a direct heat cooking method, but not direct flame. There is no flame. It's all done with embers. Now these cookers are designed. You have the cooking grate is controlled with a pulley. It has a crank, and it's attached to two chains, and that cooking grate you can raise it and lower it to adjust your cooking with what the heat is. Right. Off to the left of that, there's actually a firebox where you burn all your wood, and that generates all your coals, and that'll fall down to the bottom of like a shelf, kind of like a cooking area underneath that. So you can spoon or shovel. They're little shovels. Slide your embers, your coals over to the cooking site underneath the meat, and it's all done by temperature control and the levels of that grate. It's absolutely fascinating.
This is no pellet grill. This is you are a mad scientist.
Absolutely fascinating. And if you want to learn a little bit more about asado type cooking, I highly recommend go on the YouTube channel of Mad Scientist Barbecue, and he has one particular video where it's Argentinian asado, a complete guide, and he has an I can't say it, Argentinian
you do much better than
asado
me.
cook.
Yep.
Great presentation, and they did a great cook with a lot of the items that are typically found in asado barbecue, and most of these items they did in this particular video were actually what Angel Cabrera picked in his menu for the Masters here.
And if you want a cook that's highly influenced by heritage, this is it, because everybody
absolutely.
cooks asado style, but the recipes that generate from family to family are things that those families have cooked for the years. Like you were mentioning how you took over Easter for your family a couple of generations down the road. That's where these asado recipes come from. They're not, you can't, I mean, now you can look them up on YouTube and get an array of different things. But back then, you only knew it because your dad did it, because his dad
Absolutely.
did it, and that's how it worked. So there's some, and explain a little bit more about the sweetbread, because that's
So what the sweetbread is, it's the thymus gland, and in the cow, in the steer, in the animal, they're actually found in two locations, in the neck area, and then down right in the sternum. It's close to the heart.
Yeah.
Now, there's actually characteristics a little bit different, and from what I understand, the thymus gland or the sweetbread that's close to the heart is more desirable.
Yeah, more desirable. Yep.
More desirable as far as flavor, texture, the whole ball of wax. But that's what sweetbreads are, and they're very rich. They're almost kind of like a scallop in texture. I have had sweetbreads once in my life, and they were kind of a deep fried. They were cut in little chunks, and they similar looking to a scallop. They were breaded, and they were deep fried and served with I can't even tell you what exactly was in the sauce. It was kind of like a dipping sauce. But I'm telling you, between the crunch of the breading and the sweet, luscious, tender sweetbread, that was one of the best bites I've ever had in my life. Absolutely fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah, well, it was a joy to watch the Masters this year on Palm Sunday, and I don't know. I mean, now I know there's a circuit of different tournaments that'll be coming up. I don't know what's coming up for Easter, but nothing beat this past Masters and during the Palm Sunday, and that's very interesting about the dinners. And so to get back to, if I'm understanding it right, the 2023 Masters champion was John, was it Rahm? So he had to pay for the 2024 menu that was picked out.
That's correct.
You
got that right.
By Scheffer. So that's cool. And now and then that'll carry on to next year. So Scheffer will pay for the dinner that McIlroy picks for the next year's winner in 2026. Yep.
Yeah, it's a little tricky.
Yeah. We figured it out. That's wise guys. We're not that stupid. As long as I'm not paying for it, that's all I want to know.
By the way, we're filming a cook today, one of our upcoming cooks. I just happen to have my Wise Guy barbecue chefs going on.
Kristen Picaro procured that for us.
I'm not wearing this just because it's on.
Come on, yes you are. He wears it all the time, folks. I heard from Pam that he actually wears it to bed some once in a while.
Oh, jeez. I don't know about that.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Oh, yeah.
So we got a lot more coming your way. So please stay tuned. And as always, thanks for being here. Go eat some barbecue and have a great weekend.
See you, everybody.
Peace.